Hi everyone, it's the Rowdy Buddhist getting back to you. I haven't said much in a while for this particular kind of lecture. Basically, I like to do these when I feel something inspired or something that I'd like to share with everyone. It's interesting at the temple, there's been a lot of talk about karma. This has been brought up yesterday. We did a great lecture on chapter 25 of the Lotus Sutra, talked a lot about karma. Also, we talked specifically about karma itself with our new members in South America. And this is something that's been in my mind. And today, while I was chanting, it was really interesting because I started thinking about karma, because what we were talking about in this concept of karma is that it means action, but that actually with practicing Buddhism, the way that we look at karma is instead of something bad, we look at it as something becoming, being growing or manifesting or coming to fruition, as is usually stated. That it finally comes to a head, that it's pulled out of our bodies, that it comes before us, and at that time we can actually make a change or a choice, hopefully with the support of the Lotus Sutra, hopefully by our learning, our wisdom, our teachers, our practice, all of that. When this comes to a head, that we don't lose ourselves in fear and we don't lose ourselves in our own ego, or trying to just particularly avoid it, but that we embrace it. That's the most important part. And I was looking as this came to me when I'm chanting, I realized, just the question. Imagine everyone knows of all the difficult things that we've gone through in our life, perhaps things that we've done knowingly or unknowingly to other people, things that we've been involved in, etc., that when they came to fruition, what would we do? And just take a moment here and imagine all the things perhaps that you'd like to change, but what's the one thing keeping you from that change? Because a lot of times people spend their entire life avoiding change. And the reason why is actually a pretty logical reason. They're afraid because we don't want bad things to happen to us. We don't want difficult things. We want nice vacations. We want happy days. We want to be calm and peaceful at all times. So we think. But actually, if these things came from your deepest, darkest secrets, your deep, your fears, all of that, if that manifested right before you, could you handle it? Would you run away from it? What would you do? Would you engage in more mindless activity in order to avoid it? Would you perhaps use intoxicants or drugs to avoid dealing with this kind of action that had come from your past, either mental or physical or any of those things, manifesting it? And I thought, man, that takes a lot of guts, because actually fear is one of the most primal instincts that we have. So we evaluate a lot of things and we do a lot of things and conduct ourselves in our lives based on this fear, whether real or imagined. It doesn't matter. We just avoid these difficult things because we fear that we're not able to handle it. But it's very interesting because when we talk about this idea of karma, I don't think people really grasp what it means. Now, as we talked, and we could go back and forth with the information that, the differences between Buddhist karma and other concepts of karma in early India, etc. But the idea that it is a cognitive action, that means this aware action. So when I'm talking about cognitive, I'm not just talking about the mind. I'm talking about the whole being able to come to heads with this kind of how do you say, manifestation of itself or of its bad self, and sometimes of its good self, and to be actively involved, to know what needs to be done at that moment. How should we handle it? That's what I think Buddhism is allowing us to do. So actually, Buddhism, as you can see with Nichiren and Shonen's life, we're not about avoiding the bad stuff, because when the bad stuff comes out, that's when we can actually handle it. And it's interesting because most people think about Buddhism as about spacing out and about being happy all the time and quiet and contemplative all the time, and just have witty comebacks and all of that. But actually, Buddhism is about dealing with the difficult. And that when those things come to us, just like Nichiren Shonen's life, he didn't turn and run. He said, thank goodness I get the opportunity to do this in my life. And it's interesting because one of the Gosho that I was reading about Nichiren talking about this is this ability to change. And it's called the Ka-en Jogo Gosho. And actually, this Gosho is a Nichiren Shonen's letter of sympathy that he sent to Toki Jonin's ill wife, advising her to establish unassailable faith, something that can't be destroyed in the Lotus Sutra. And it's phenomenal because he talks about karma. And since we were talking about it, I wanted to bring this up. He says, writing about lengthening the lifespan. To begin with, there are two kinds of illness, minor and major illnesses. Even a major illness can be cured and the lifespan lengthened if a skillful physician is available to treat it immediately, to say nothing of a minor illness. Now listen to this word immediately. That means it needs to be recognized, right? Not to be avoided. It needs to be recognized and it needs to be taken care of immediately. What keeps people from doing that? Knowing they should go to the doctor, knowing they should do this, they avoid it. Fear. Second of all, also there are two kinds of karma. Now he's talking specifically about karma. Mutable karma and immutable karma. So these are very interesting concepts. So I was doing a lot of research on this because again, these English words, I understand it within the Japanese context. So mutable karma is called fujogo. And that means like a kind of unfixed karma that doesn't produce specific results or rewards. It's just an action. And this is a lesser kind of easier way to something you can change, a kind of habit or behavior, something that we can easily change. And then second of all is the immutable karma, which is jogo. And that's karma that produces a fixed set result, whether negative or positive. Now, when I say fixed, I'm not talking about this universal system that delivers good and bad retribution. What I'm talking about is that all the different aspects of our lives that influence this kind of immutable karma, and it comes from 4 different causes of fixed karma, this immutable karma. That is strong earthly desires, pure mind, our original kind of animalistic nature that we're born with. That is very difficult to overcome because that motivates us to do good things as well as bad things. Second of all, actions, whether good or evil, done habitually. Again, these kind of two are put together, desires or habitual kind of intrinsic behavior. And third, actions, whether good or evil, performed in relation to sources of benefit, the 3 treasures. So that means you do an action based on faith, based on practice. These are kind of a karmic influence in our life. And 4, actions causing harm to parents. Now, a lot of times this comes back to the idea that parents are the roots of our lives. So therefore, if you are able to harm your parents, you're able to harm anybody. This is just a pretty deep concept that is constantly found and seen in Buddhism. So Nichiren Shonin goes on to say about these two mutable and immutable karma. He says, even immutable karma, that is the karma that's so hard to change, that karma that is just in your deepest bone, in your bones, in your body, it will inevitably disappear when fully atoned for, to say nothing of mutable karma. So again, we as Buddhists, Nichiren Buddhists, we go for that immutable karma. So when we practice, when they talk about just good effects happening, good things happening to you, that's not dealing with immutable karma. That's not dealing with the base problems of this impermanent, this suffering, this mind that can find no happiness, can find no contentment rather than happiness. And then Nichiren Shonin goes on, as usual, to preach and say specifically where in the Lotus Sutra this is coming from. It is preached in the Lotus Sutra of Fascicle 7, Medicine King Bodhisattva. This sutra is a good medicine for the diseases of people in the suffering world, or as he says, the Jambudvipa. Bear in mind that this scriptural statement is preached in the Lotus Sutra. Although holy teachings of the Buddha are preached during his lifetime, all the words of the Buddha, from which truth comes from. But he says, especially this Lotus Sutra is the most truthful of all the teachings, as Shakyamuni himself states. And he says, having abandoned the expedients, I preach this sutra honestly. This is why the Buddha of many treasures bore witness, and as we see. Nichiren Shonin states, and this is interesting, that one of the actions that we can do, this karmic action, this cognitive, this aware action that we can do in our practice through learning and practicing, as he says in Shoho Jiso Sho, is the way to deal with this karma. It's preparation, and it's real preparation. It's not just something imaginary, like when you go to one of these seminars and you feel really good about yourself, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 days. This is a very kind of simplistic way, and also it's easy to come, easy to go. And then when something else comes in your life that particular answer or that particular program was unable to help you with, it becomes another big issue. And then you have to go to another seminar, and then you have to read another book. Anjo Swank talks about this all the time. He considered himself one of these kind of motivational junkies, which we see a lot of nowadays because people just want to be motivated all the time. It's the same as taking a kind of high-level drug, in the sense that you're pumping yourself up, but you're not really dealing with the problem. So Buddhism gets to the base of it. However, it also supports us. So we're not alone. So when we're dealing with these karmas, when we're dealing with these actions, most importantly, as Nichiren Shonin's life shows us, we mustn't be afraid. We mustn't be fearful. But fear is a natural instinct because we fear the unknown. We fear what could potentially hurt us, what may be uncomfortable. But to understand the power that is found in the Lotus Sutra, that is attested to by Taho Buddha, we are able to see that we are able to change this karma. And it says, and again, never despising Bodhisattva, our favorite chapter, and the exemplar of Nichiren Shonin. It is preached in never despising Bodhisattva, lengthening his lifespan. Again, by practicing the Lotus Sutra, he extended his lifespan, set by his innumerable karma. So no matter how much karma he had, he was able to expand his life. And Nichiren Shonin goes on through the letter saying, even extending your life for 1 day is worth more than any of the crown jewels in the world. It means nothing. All the piles of gold. If you extend your life 1 day, that means one more opportunity for you to practice and learn is worth more than anything than you can imagine. So therefore, I just wanted to share this with you and go read these chapters and try to find this idea, because again, this concept of karma is a very interesting point that keeps coming up, because we really want to deal with these actions and change our lives. We really want to deal with difficulties and overcome them. So therefore, all of you be brave. All of you keep your faith, develop your faith. And as Nichiren Shonin says in this letter, by understanding through faith, through learning and practicing, Buddhism exists. Buddhism changes your life, lengthens your life, improves your life, and allows you to overcome all types of karma. So therefore, I thank you all for enjoying this time with me, and I look forward to our next time. Thank you very much. Nam-myoho Renge Kyo.